Hi there, everyone. So this section, we're trying to really focus on and highlight that doing gesture drawings is a way just to help you understand relationships of parts to a whole, where things overlap, where things intersect. For instance, that if I hold up a pencil, I can see that the apple is like 2/3 through the can. I can find out that this edge of this cube is just a little to the right of this bottle. And I can compare that to my still life and learn how things work. We talked about that, having the vertical. We also talked about measuring. We had found out that the apple was the same size as the can, was the same size as the olive oil bottle, as was this can, which was really quite brilliant. So that was the second thing we could do, is sighting and measuring. And then the third thing was that we would check our angles and we would act like they were hands on a clock. So if this was 9 and 6 or horizontal, then this was 1 o'clock or something. This was just a little above horizontal. It's like 9:30. So that was our gesture, measuring, and sighting. Then we came in and we started to talk about doing continuous line contour, and that these drawings aren't necessarily to help you make a stellar drawing. It's more to understand your subject, just like the gesture. So it's all these little parts coming together that are going to give us a cool drawing. So here we have a continuous line blind contour drawing, in which I didn't look at the paper at all. I only looked at the subject. And I had learned that this actually, while it's real wonky, has much better proportions than my original one, and better angles of things. Like, yes, my cup is a little off and so forth, but it does sit better, more accurately as a whole than the first one. I switched my still life and I did a little bag of rice and some mint and did a gesture, and it had started kind of clumsy and really light. I did a blind continuous line contour of it, where I learned all kinds of different things that I didn't know in this one, like it needed to be skinnier, so I erased it the way that the contour was at the top of the bag, so I shifted it. And it's just the beginning phase. So then we took it again. So it's just supposed to be so fast, like really quick to work through. So then I put my mint back. I did a quick gesture of it. And then I did a continuous line contour. A little slower at that rate, but with all that knowledge that I had built up about the subject. So now what I'm going to do is take a study, and I want to turn it into a more resolved drawing. I want to make it like a little more illustrative. Clean this up here. Excuse me. Put away this. And I'm going to make it on our mixed media paper, which looks like this. So I've got a sheet of this, and then the idea is that we can make a fun little study from it. But before I even move on to here, I'm going to use this as a trace and transfer. So I'm going to tear this out. Don't mind tearing that out. And I'm going to do what I'm going to call a thumbnail sketch. We're going to talk about composition a lot more, but this is kind of an intro to it. So I'm going to draw a little rectangle that's the same proportion as my final support. So that seems about the same size. And what I can do to start is I can say, okay, when I trace and transfer this on here, I'm going to just use the scale as it is. So I can decide, like, am I going to put it down low? Am I going to put it right in the middle? Am I shift it over to the side and have it be quiet? Actually, kind of like that. And that's what the thumbnails are for. So very quickly, I'm just going to make a little scribble gesture. That's what you call this. To see what happens if it's right in the center, which I kind of like. And I want lots of white space. I'm going to call that my negative space. The background is the negative. The positive is the figure ground. But let's just try a couple more. These take like a couple seconds max. And it gives us some knowledge visually about where I might want to put my subject. I really do like this little line holding it down. I kind of leaning towards the, I don't know if this is in the frame, the centered one. Let's do the cups really center. This is where I'd go off. Go with no. I'm gonna try maybe 2 more. I kind of liked this when I held the over the paper, where it kind of danced off to the side. It makes it feel lonelier with all that white space. I might do this. Like I said, we're going to talk about composition a lot into the future. We're going to talk about things like rule of thirds, having these areas be places of focal point. We'll talk about dynamic symmetry. We'll talk about the golden ratio. We'll talk about all kinds of things for building compositions. We'll talk about how sometimes your past art teachers may have said never put something in the center. I think that actually is more like just be thoughtful about your edges, and if you want something to be monolithic and bold, put it in the center. So I'm not loving this one or this one. I'm feeling these, so I'm gonna see. If I did it there, that was the other one I liked. I don't know, it's kind of nice when it's quiet and low. Maybe I'll put it like right there. That might be my plan. Okay, so here's how you can take all these little study drawings and turn them into a trace and transfer. I'm going to show you how to do this digitally in a minute on Procreate, which then translates into Photoshop or Illustrator and so forth. Not to say you have to use digital tools in here, but I think for a Drawing 1 class, it's that idea of how can you translate this to that language. So this is basically an analog method that you kind of would do in a Photoshop type program. Okay, I'm going to grab some Vine charcoal and I turn the paper over, and I'm going to hold it up to the light because I don't want to put Vine all over the back. So I could just see kind of where the, you can't see it on the video, but where it lined up. And then I'm going to put, with the charcoal on its side, a coat of Vine charcoal, like so. You can do this with graphite. You have your woodless pencils like your 8 and your 9, and you can do it with that if you would prefer. I'm going to kind of shake this off, and I'm going to be super careful when I do this because I don't want to mess up my paper. Excuse me. By getting the vine to smush all around on it. I think I want it there. I'm going to tape it down just a little bit. Maybe. I think drawing is like all about edit, revision, edit, revision. Make sure my verticals are parallel to my vertical edge of the picture plane. I'm going to use my ruler just to sight it to make sure. That looks parallel to me, I think. Let's try it over here. Looks pretty good. Just looking like if this is the edge of the picture plane and it's vertical. That's a little off, so I can bring this in a little when I draw it. Okay, so I'm going to take my mechanical pencil, and I am not going to push my hand down on this paper at all. I'm just going to trace it very carefully, hold it in place. I'm just going to draw a little bit and make sure it's releasing. Yeah. Again, being very careful not to touch the vine underneath. I'm kind of reshaping these, giving them a more interesting contour. You could do this before the trace and transfer if you wanted to like really refine the drawing one more time. I still have my mint subject up on the model stand, so if I wanted to look at it to double check or to exaggerate something, I might make this one a little bigger. I am kind of referencing the still life a little bit. So hopefully you can see how those like really fast drawings that are not, you're like, oh, I don't know about all these weird things, how they can really start to come together through a kind of slow build. Make that one a little bigger. I'm always nervous of the cups or any of the geometries. They're always hard. They really are the kind of the basis for everything. We'll make it work. Again, I'm really letting myself kind of reshape these. I have a lot of knowledge about these little leaves now because I've spent so much time looking at them. Not sure where I'm at here. Aha! Looks pretty good. Okay, here goes the cup. Actually, this is a point where I could say, well, maybe for my illustration, I don't want the cup. No, I do. Remember, I told myself I was going to bring this in a little narrower. So I'm going to intentionally come in a bit. I think that's it. Oh, and the reflections. I kind of wimped out on the reflections. I might add in a couple more. And then I didn't draw the water ring. Fix that. Oh, graphite's gone. Switch pencils. And then all I have left is well, that one's gone too. I didn't get you guys any replacement leads, but you can easily go on Dick Blick and get the replacements if you love these pencils. They should last quite a long time, but I think mine are just coming to the end. Okay, let's see how we did. Yeah, close enough. Okay, I'm gonna peel that off, put that aside, and then I can either like wipe off the back and erase it to save for later if I still am excited about it. I can even like tape it back into my sketchbook if I want, or I can just put a piece of paper on the back, or I can just throw it in the trash. I like the drawing though, so I'm gonna try and save it. And then I'm gonna turn off the video and we're gonna get back together, and in a minute, I'm gonna make like a fun illustration contour line drawing with our markers. So I will do that in just a second.